Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. It's been a little over 2 weeks since I found out that I didn't need to replace my queen because I had one. Guess the old saying, live and learn. I was surprised to find capped brood the last time I was in here when I was going to be doing a new queen placement. Fortunately, I found someone local who needed a queen and everything worked out all right. So today I'm back to do a couple of things. We're going to look at how much brood she has, how much room she has. I've been feeding them 2-to-1 simple syrup for the past 3 weeks or so. Don't want her to get honey bound, so hopefully we can verify whether that's happened or not. If it's not, I'll continue feeding them. If it is, of course, we'll back off and wait a week or so before we start feeding again. Later today, or maybe tomorrow, depends on how paint dries. I'm not watching it, by the way. I built a top feeder for mason jars. I wanted to get it in out of the weather. Didn't want this bottle sitting out front to attract things like ants and vermin. Had a possum last night come by. Don't know if he paid a visit to the hive, but wouldn't surprise me. So want to get that inside. Right now it's just made for a single feeder or single mason jar. I might expand it to 3 depending on how long or how much we want to feed them. So I guess, as they say, nothing to do but do it. So here we go. I'm going to try and give some close-ups today of the frames. Hopefully my phone will cooperate and focus properly. A couple other things we're going to do to winterize. When I put the top feeder on, is I plan to seal up the back of my bottom board on this hive. And I also want to pull it out today, take a look and see what kind of trash we have on the bottom board. Might as well pull that out now, take a look at it. We have a level problem with my hive, which I'm going to fix by modifying this table or bench. As you can see, dead bees. You can see, get this up close, you can see little bits of pollen mixed in with the what appears to be old cappings, probably from where they're hatching out brood. No beetle carcasses. I do see one little ant roaming around there. Not sure where he got to. What we affectionately call piss ants from my part of the country. But only saw the one, so I don't think we have an ant infestation. It's just some guy scat out. There he is. I don't know if you can see him real well. But we're going to clean this off, put it back in, and like I said, I'll seal the back of it up for the winter time. But I'm glad to see that there are no varroa mite bodies and no dead hive beetles. Now, whether we'll still be in that position next year, hard to say. But that is definitely good right now. Clean off the rest of this sticky substance. Might be a little, mostly pollen. But I am happy to see that we don't have mites or beetles. Alright, girls, here comes the smoke. I had someone point out to me the other day that probably not a good idea to remove the propolis that the bees are putting in here. Lets them seal the thing up for winter, keeps their heat in, especially on the top. Everybody seems to be pretty docile, smoking down in there a little bit. I'm probably going to pull one of these outside combs that they haven't worked very much to the inside, let them draw that out, give the queen more of a place to do her business. Looks like I've got at least one that has literally no comb on it at all. Of course, that's the very first one. So this one I will probably move, not all the way into the middle, but closer in. You can see they've drawn a little bit of comb, not much. Next frame, looks like they've drawn quite a bit on this one. This one, of course, was an empty frame when I put them in here back in September. So they've done a good job drawing this one out. Got a little bit of capped honey there, not a lot. The other side, not much either. So this is probably one I will be putting closer to the brood chambers, depending on how much we see that she's laying. Now this frame is quite heavy, and we have a lot of drawn out comb, lots of honey stores. That's probably 2/3 honey, and it all seems to be capped. We've got a few there right in the middle that aren't capped yet. They're busy on that. The other side, same thing. We've got about half. You can see a lot of sugar water stores in there. I wouldn't call it honey yet. They haven't got all the water out of it, which the 2-to-1 won't be as hard for them to draw down to the right moisture content before they cap it. Now, as busy as these girls are, I'm hoping that I can do good and get put a super on this next year. But the bigger plan is to split this hive next spring once the honey gets moving. I do want to get up to about 5 hives or so. That's always been the plan. Not going to become a professional honey maker, just something to keep me busy, help out the environment a little bit if possible. Now this one is very heavy, and we might even have a queen on here. So let's take a good look, see what we've got. Lots and lots of syrup or nectar. Not nectar, because we really don't have any flow. Down here on toward the bottom, toward my hand, you can see we've got quite a few brood cells going on there. I wouldn't call that a great pattern, but there's very little room for her to lay on this side of the frame. So let's roll it over and see what we got on the other side. On this side, pretty much the same story. We've got one small area there that she's doing a lot of brood. Oh, we have a drone. Good to see. At least I think that's a drone. Haven't seen the queen yet, but very, very full of syrup and honey stores. So I may be cutting back on the amount of syrup that I'm feeding them. We'll see how the rest of the frames look before we make that decision. And as someone pointed out to me, it's always important to separate your frames here between the supports for the frame, for the top bar, because if you do it here on the bar itself, you're liable to split one or both of those when you try to pull it apart. So I guess I can say I've learned that this year. All right, let's see what we got here. Not as heavy as the last frame. We have very sparse brood cells, but not overly abundant with syrup. You can see some larvae down in there. She is laying in this frame. Seems to have a little more room on this one than the others. And I still don't see the queen. We may not see her today. I haven't seen her in a long time. She's a sneaky one, wherever she is. Roll this over. See what we got on the other side. Over here, basically the mirror image of the other side. Not a lot of brood cells. Quite a bit of honey in the center where we should be having bees. I am probably going to slack off on feeding them, given that these two brood frames are so full of simple syrup. She's definitely slacking off for the winter time, which is what you kind of expect at this time of year. Not being able to get out and forage the way they have. We very little in the way of hello YouTube fans, family, aliens. You never know, they might be watching. Maybe they're bee aliens. Anyway, this is my second attempt to make this video. Tried it yesterday and my phone ran out of memory. So today I'm back to using my good old Canon HD camera, and round number 2. Now I'm not going to go through everything I did yesterday because that's kind of a waste of time. I'm going to hit the highlights, show you some brood, some larvae, the honey, and of course the simple solution, sugar solution I've been feeding them for the past month or so now, and go over the decisions to do what I'm going to do. I've also got some other things at the end here. We'll get to that in a few minutes. It's basically just some winterization activity to get these guys ready to go through probably January. It's not been too bad so far. The forecast, they might be right, they might not. So nothing to do but to do it. Here we go. Now, I don't know how well the autofocus is going to work on this. In the past, it's always done a good job, so we will see how that works out today. Give the girls a little bit of smoke, providing my smoker hasn't gone out, which I think it has. Well, I guess it's time for a video edit. Okay, smoker has been rejuvenated. Gonna give him a little smoke in the front here. Let him know what's coming. And then we'll get to the back here. And for some reason my inner cover is stuck to my top cover. Kind of odd, but there it is. Probably because the girls didn't have time to glue it back down yesterday. Alright, so yesterday I went through it, looked for the queen, and I still have not seen the girl. She is very good at hide and seek. Couple dead bees there, got squished. So I am going to try to find her today. It's not a priority. I do want to show y'all some of the frames here in the middle that are more or less, the queen is honey bound on the main brood frames, so I'm not going to be feeding them for at least a couple of weeks. But I did want to show you some of the brood. Get these moved over here. Now, it's possible the queen is on this frame. Don't know. I'm going to take a quick look. I don't. You can see we have some brood on this frame right there at the bottom. And I don't recall seeing any larvae on this frame. But she does have room here. They've got a cluster where she can lay. But the most of it, make sure the autofocus has time to work, as you can see, is full of syrup. It's not honey, but they can use it as a resource for when the temperature goes down. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to expand some of the empty brood cells on the other frames. We've got some brood on this one as well. You can see there, it's not heavy. Pattern's kind of spotty. Probably due to the fact that she's a new queen, but I still have not found the girl. Doesn't appear to be on this frame. So it's off to the next one. Apparently we got quite a bit of rain last night. Now the other thing I did, this was a second to last outer frame. As you can see, it's very empty, only about a half with honey and syrup. Not even all of it's capped yet. But you can see they've got quite a bit of pollen stored in there. They use that to mix with nectar to feed the young ones with. And there's a blasted hive beetle. I didn't find any dead ones yesterday when I checked the bottom board. Of course, I cleaned that off in the end. But there were no varroa mites and no beetles on the bottom board, so the fact that I saw a beetle just then proves that I do have some in here, but that's the only one I've seen the last 3 times I've been in here. So I definitely will get a beetle trap to install. Probably buy me a dozen of them to use throughout the year, next year. But I moved that frame over next to the center so that they can draw that out more and expand her brood cells, her brood capability. This frame as well, you can see, has some brood on it, not much, but it does have a lot of syrup. I don't see our queen anywhere, but like I said, she is really good at hiding. Maybe she went to the CIA school for spies, I don't know. I just haven't seen her. Again, brood, not much, but then again, I don't expect a lot this time of year, but I would like to see more, so I'm going to cut down on the simple syrup, give her more room. Because generally, bees follow the old adages, last in, first out kind of thing, especially around the brood cells. I did see some larvae and some uncapped cells yesterday. I was hoping to show you some of those. So let's see how that goes. If we find some, they should be on this frame here. This one is really heavy. Really heavy. Probably the heaviest one in the whole frame, or the whole box. Lots of honey, lots of capped honey on this one. We've got some brood cells. And let's see if we can spot the larva that I saw yesterday. A lot of syrup around the bottom. And I still have not seen my queen. And hopefully, well, I do intend to get a marking kit. And hopefully between now and the next flow, I can find and mark my queen. This side doesn't seem to have any brood cells at all. They're all filled with simple syrup. And that's what I was talking about. I'd like to see some of them cleaned out and her go back to laying in them. This is one of the original frames that I got with the nuke. And I can tell that because it has wire supports in it, whereas the frames that I added are a plastic frame. And they don't use wire supports. All right, Miss B, you're in the way. Looks like I have a couple of angry ones at me now. Hopefully that won't last. But we're going to pull all these back over, get our last frame in on the edge. Sorry I couldn't find the larva cells. They may have capped them since yesterday. They are a busy bunch. And now we're going to put our end frame back in. Now today, we're going to replace the inner lid with the top feeder. And I've sat here and let my smoker go out again. Oh well, sometimes I'm not much of a beekeeper, but we'll just shake these gals off here. And I got most of them. We'll lay this to the side. Now this is something I built out of some spare pine. I believe this is pine lapping, pine siding. Put some vent holes in the end of it, in each end, that is, like so. The other thing I did was I put a hole in it for a traditional mason jar, and of course a couple of vents. And the colors, what I could find on sale at the local hardware store. So we'll put this on, and what that's going to do, that's going to allow me to move my external feeder, or board feeder they call it, to inside this box. Now this is empty, but there's a reason for that. It's empty because I'm not going to feed them for a couple of weeks. But as you saw, there's a large hole in there, and I really don't want them coming up here and getting trapped because there's no exit on the top here. I could remedy that by putting the top cover back on, which I think I will do, because if they, I don't know how they could get up here. Actually, I'm going to use that inner cover. I need to make some more for my hives next year. I think I'll just leave this as the feeder in here, and we'll put that back on. Alright, this is the last part of our exercise today. I hope my entrance reducer that I made will fit properly. We're about to find out. And it does not. It is a smidge too high. Alright, I will go take a fraction off the length and a fraction off the height. But like they say, you can cut it, but you can't make it grow. So thankfully I erred on the side of too large. I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, having a trim that wasn't too unexpected. Some of these hives and bottom boards have various measurements. I just used one off a box I had on the porch, which was apparently a little different than this one. So we're going to slide this reducer in here. It's got a nice snug fit. And there they have it. The girls have a nice tidy reduced entrance to fend off the invaders and reduce the airflow when it gets cold. So that'll be it for now. Guess I'll do a little post monologue. Like I've said in the past, I don't think we could ever have too many beekeepers, so like, subscribe, share, especially share. I don't really care about the subscriptions or likes. This, like I've said before, is more for my benefit than anybody else's. I'll post them, people give me feedback, and I'll learn a little bit. Sometimes I'll learn a lot. So keep those comments coming, keep the questions coming. If I can't answer it, I'll find you somebody that can, or send you a link. So get out there and keep a few bees. We'll see you next time.